Barakoa, when our dreams opened the door to another world, I let the Amerindian Taino people come to me. The night is alive with strange characters, and at dawn, when you so want to hold them back, the memories become jumbled and dissipate with the arrival of the new day. I decided to come to Barakoa, far from the clichés of Havana, to encounter the bare necessities of life, the little-known and original side of Cuba. My journey starts here, in this little house, slowly coming to life on a hillside at the eastern end of the island. At 6:30 in the morning, on country roads still wet from the previous day's rain, children from the local schools pass by. Bordeaux, mustard, or blue? The color of the uniform the pupils proudly wear, from primary through to high school, readily denotes which stage of schooling each pupil is at. At this early hour, one has the impression that the Cuban population is made up solely of a smartly dressed youth. The streets are so full. Gradually, small groups form outside the school gates, sorted by color. The ancient and recent history of Cuba has forged over time a genuine and healthy patriotism. Copied and envied by many countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, the Cuban school system is a powerful symbol of the success of a certain social model, which succeeded in bringing literacy and education to the tiniest villages on the isle in a short space of time. The children arrive a good half hour before the start of class and slowly line up in front of the statue of José Martí, one of the great figures of the War of Independence. As they do every morning, they await the raising of the flag.
Yo trabajo con las asignaturas de lengua española, historia de Cuba y educación cívica.
I am a teacher of Spanish, Cuban history, and civic education. Civic education teaches children about the family, the behavior they should adopt depending on the circumstances, education about road safety, moral instruction, and duty towards the nation and how to defend it. Not by taking up arms, but rather through cherishing the love we have for our country and for its leaders. There is also a fundamental subject, which is the attention we must pay to the environment, because we all depend on nature. Those are the topics we cover in civic education.
When I ask if this teaching is reinforced by other means after school, here's how he answers.
The frescoes and murals that you can observe everywhere in the streets and on buildings, for example, always contain some educative value. I consider that as part of our life. It's one of the distinguishing features of our country. I wouldn't say it's really political. It's more a way of communicating with the population and maintaining a bond with the people. Another value we seek to develop in children is internationalism. They have to understand that they mustn't only nurture the relationships they have with other children their age or people in their own country, but must also be open to anyone who might solicit their aid.
Barakoa se identifica
Barakoa is in a very special geographical location, a mountainous zone with many rivers. It rains every month. In fact, it rains almost every week. The agriculture here is also very specific. Look around you, and you will see we are surrounded by palm trees, coconut trees, cacao trees, coffee plants. These are all characteristic of the Barakoa region.
Barakoa is a charming little town which faces the rising sun. It probably owes its authenticity and easygoing outlook to the fact that until the 1960s, it was cut off from the rest of the country by an imposing mountainous outcrop, making overland access impossible. The only way to reach Barakoa was by the sea. It was by the sea that one day in 1492, the Taino Amerindians gave a naively warm welcome to the ships of Christopher Columbus, who had sailed from Europe. It was from here in Barakoa that the Spanish slowly but surely changed the face of the island, starting with the grim fate of the indigenous people, who until then had lived on these lush coastlands, and of whom almost no trace remains. Today, the memory of their bravery in the face of the invader is preserved as a legacy, since it so perfectly illustrates the image of the Cuban people's resistance. The slender carts of fruit, vegetables, and other staples that I see here and there are a kind of itinerant market. Positioned for a while in a shady street, they continue their door-to-door rounds, a very practical shopping arrangement for the inhabitants of Barakoa. As I wander the streets, I notice the murals that the schoolmaster told me about. These frescoes combine drawings and topography of a rare graphic elegance, making the town's streets into an open book on the values of the revolution and more besides.
When you walk around town, and it's the same everywhere in Cuba, you will notice there are two types of fresco. There are political murals, and then the more artistic murals that have been done by artists. The political paintings have been done by people we call rotulistas. They are artisan painters who carry out this work and who in turn receive a salary from the party or some other governmental organization. But the artistic murals are a whole different thing. One has a political message and the other is, let's say, more pleasantly artistic.
Sean murales que ayudan espiritualmente a las personas.
These frescoes spiritually enrich those who see them. They also serve to educate the population, because there are people who have little historical knowledge about their city, and thanks to what is conveyed in these murals, they learn a lot.
Pero a través de los murales van aprendiendo, las cosas que están plasmadas en los murales enseñan mucho. Este mural es, como te decía, tiene de la historia.
This mural tells the story of the arrival in Barakoa of the three caravels in Columbus's fleet, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. You can see the process of colonization that we all know when the Indians came to welcome them with fruit. We still have that hospitality here in Barakoa. We are friendly people, and we get that characteristic from our Taino ancestors. Our people are direct descendants of that indigenous culture, you know. That's what this fresco is all about.
En Cuba hay muchas personas que se sienten muy orgullosos de ser cubanos.
A lot of people are proud to be Cuban. Being Cuban means having the notion of sacrifice, being courageous, and doing things with intelligence. Cubans are very well educated, and our history has taught us a lot. We also have a great sense of solidarity, and we like to help and give our love, do things with our heart. One thing I try to represent in my work is humility. We Cubans, we don't have many possessions, but we are happy. Happy with the little we have. That's what being Cuban means to me.
Transforming the little one possesses into a strength and being content with that. Those are quite simple notions. And I do well to remember that, because if the traveler has a duty, it is to listen to the world, to put it into perspective. Back on the Malecon, as the seafront drive is known, I watch the ocean endlessly pummeling the rocks. Farther along, in the shadow of the buildings facing out to sea, the strange sight of some cocks dancing about catches my attention.
For a Cuban, you might say that the cockerel is in the blood. You soon realize when you arrive in a neighborhood and you see someone with a handsome cock that they're really amazing animals. They immediately catch your attention. And then when you start to primp it up, plucking it and shaving it and training it for combat, that's nice already. You feed it well, keep it in a nice quiet spot, look after it well, and only after that do you take it to fight. We say, taking it to the Colosseum. It takes 2 months of training. They are prepared by making them do exercises and taking in the sun. All that for at least 2 months. As you can see, they wear protection when they're training so they don't get injured. The cock learns the style and improves the accuracy of its blows. My grandfather used to do cockfighting. It was in a house in Guantanamo. there was a party for New Year, and they took me along. I was little, but they took me along. I remember there was a white one and a brown one, almost black. The two of them fought and died, obviously. And then they went straight into the pot to be eaten, and it was a feast.
Well, since it's an ancestral custom which seems firmly anchored in Cuban customs, I'll try to learn more about the subject in the coming days. For the meantime, I leave the coast and am soon enveloped in the tropical forest, which is like a thick carpet on the flank of the hills surrounding Barakoa. It's the opportunity for me to take the fabulously windy Farola, the famous highway built in the 1960s in the wake of the Cuban Revolution, which completed the long-standing project of linking the island overland from east to west. Thanks to the Farola, this region that was for so long cut off from outside influences was opened up. Barakoa was in an unusual situation of double isolation, being cut off from the rest of the island, while Cuba was isolated from the rest of the world. This particularity allowed it to preserve a culture, an identity, and traditions which are almost miraculous these days. It certainly offers much for those who like to see a people's roots breaking the surface in the present day. I'm now venturing into the land of the cacao growers.
I've been doing this job ever since I was little. You could say I was created in this field. You know, here in the countryside, the children help their parents from the age of 6 or 7. Back in the day, cacao wasn't grown on this land. It was used for growing bananas, which are called guineo here. At the time, they used to sell a lot of bananas. There was even a special train from Consolación de José de Mata to collect the bananas before shipping them abroad, mainly to the United States. Then it moved on to the green banana, which was eaten as an accompaniment to various dishes. After the banana plantations, they began to grow coffee. Here, before the cacao, it was covered in coffee plants. When trade in coffee began to decline, they got into cacao. Today, my field is mainly made up of cacao and sweet bananas. When you plant a cacao seed, you have to wait 4 or 5 years before it starts to give fruit. And around 7 to 8 years before it reaches peak production. Cacao has its own cycles. There's the small harvest and the big one in the middle of the year. The tree produces fruit throughout the year, but in smaller quantities. Here we have been using the same methods as always. It's the same tradition. Harvest the cacao, send it to the cooperative, keeping a little bit for our own consumption. That's it, nothing more. Before 1959, it was a bit different. We had to sell dry cacao. But after the revolution, The process was simplified, and the state now buys the fruit as pulp directly from us. We don't have to process it, which saves us a lot of work. When Fidel triumphed in the Sierra Maestra, the first thing he did was to give land to the peasants so they could be happy in their work. Everyone was delighted with this reform process initiated by our comandante, our leader. For a Cuban, being a farmer is a source of great pride because the great leaders of the revolution come from Cuban farming stock. So you can understand that we are proud to be good farmers, combative and hardworking.
Barakoa
is the powerhouse of the cacao sector because 90% of all cacao in Cuba is produced in this region.
90% del cacao que se produce en Cuba se produce en esta zona.
After leaving the white pulp extracted from the pods to ferment for 7 days, it is then left to dry in the sun for another week before being roasted in a cauldron. The cacao beans then become brown and crunchy and are then passed through a mill to obtain a sort of thick paste that is rolled into balls. Once it's dry, it can readily be conserved, and when required, it just needs to be shredded before finally extracting the cocoa powder. Because the Caribbean is relatively close to the equator, night falls quickly, and at 6 o'clock the streets are already plunged into darkness. Just like a child's bedroom when the door has been left ajar to allow in a reassuring shaft of light, the street lamps now bathe the town in their soft yellow light, bringing a special kind of intimacy to nocturnal life. Music always forms the backdrop to life in Cuba, especially in the home. It floats freely through the often open front doors or through the windows whose shutters and blinds block out neither sound nor curious glances. So, when the music finally reaches the bodies, it spreads from one person to another like a sweet contagion. The public space slowly evaporates before my eyes, and I feel I am in a strange world in which the indoors and the outdoors have been swapped over, where the street has been transformed into an intimate open-air space, which is a very pleasant place to be. Some sawdust, some stakes driven into the ground in the middle of the forest, a few lengths of string, and some banana leaves to hold it all together. That's all there is for a setting. As for the rest, the main ingredient is passion, energy, and desire. And here, everyone has got plenty of that.
Cuban boxing is probably the most technical in the world. The difference here compared to other countries is that we box for the pleasure, as amateurs, because we enjoy it, whereas others do it for the money. Elsewhere, as soon as a boxer shows the slightest talent, he can turn professional. That's not the way we approach boxing.
To appreciate the qualities of Cuban boxing on the international stage, one has to wait for non-professional competitions like the Olympic Games. During these games, Cubans often scoop gold and silver on the podium in all categories.
Cuban boxing is courageous and very combative. You can draw a parallel with the history of our country, which began with revolutions like that of the Mambises, who fought bravely, armed with machetes. They were proud to defend their land and liberated us from the Spaniards. Then we fought against the Americans until we had the revolution, and from then on, boxing began to develop based on the values we had acquired involving courage, fighting spirit, dignity, and patriotism. That's why you won't find boxing like Cuban boxing anywhere else in the world. We train every day except Sunday, and every Saturday we hold competitions. There is one Saturday of rest per month. Otherwise, there are bouts every Saturday. We organize matches to prepare the teams. We bring together athletes from across the whole region, and we train together.
Toma aire, coge calma.
This competition is a success on every level, and I especially admire the simplicity and humility with which these people face the challenges of day-to-day life, despite the obvious lack of resources. Clearly, that doesn't stop them from being happy. On the contrary. Happiness is not, strictly speaking, like something you just have to find or buy. No, happiness exists inside us. It's up to each of us to nurture it.
I wanted to study, but my father and mother were on their own. So I gave up my secondary studies and came back to be here with them. Then I joined the army. They wanted me to continue in the Air Force, but I didn't want to because someone needed to take care of the property. So I came back and stayed here to help them work the land.
Me gustaba estudiar, pero ¿qué pasa? Todos mis hermanos se graduaron.
I liked studying, but this is how things turned out. All my brothers graduated before me, and they all work now. My sisters are married. One married a sailor. One of my brothers is a headmaster. So what should I do? Leave my parents? Abandon the property? I had to come back here and continue the tradition. This land has belonged to my father since the revolution. They gave him this little plot because he had tended it. He cleaned it up and planted coconut palms. Here we say that the land belongs to he who works and cultivates it, not to the proprietor. For example, if you have some untended land, and I come along, clean it up, work the land, and start growing things, who does that land belong to in the end? To the proprietor? No, it belongs to he who works it. That's what you have to do, sow the land. When someone teaches their knowledge, we learn a lot, and we don't lose the tradition. If no one is passing on their knowledge, we turn away from tradition. If you don't learn to climb the trunks of coconut palms, what do? Are you going to get a chainsaw and cut down the tree to get the fruit? Nobody wants to work the land anymore. They want to study. And then they want this and that, a cart, a car, and then they're off to the city. Who will take care of the mountains and nature? Leave it to the farmers, they say. We've got cars. But a car is not the main thing in life. The main thing is man, he who works the land and who knows its true worth. It takes a grandson, a nephew. Someone has to follow the tradition. That can't be someone from the outside. You can't just go and get someone and say, hey, you, come here, I'll teach you the job. It doesn't work like that. It's a family tradition and it must be preserved. If you don't keep it up, you're nobody.
land. Who does it belong to? For the Taino, Amerindians, and other indigenous people, the land doesn't belong to anyone because it is the mother of all of us. For Cubans, it belongs to whoever works and maintains it. And for most of the rest of the world, it is acquired and becomes property. Who's right? Who's wrong? In any case, it is up to all of us to take care of it, because in the end, it will make us pay for any form of arrogance.
Abrimos las puertas de la unidad a las 7 de la mañana.
We open the doors at 7 a.m. and we register the cocks until 9 o'clock. Then they are weighed and we keep them in cages until we find a pair whose weight and size match to provide a fair combat. Then the cocks are armed. Spurs made of resin are attached, identical to their natural ones. Then they go into the laboratory, where several tests are done to check they are clean and that they don't have any poison on their feathers. If there is, the reagent goes dark, as is the case here. There's poison here. It's an illegal way of winning. The fight obviously won't take place. On the other hand, this one is clear. It hasn't been poisoned.
Luego proceden a pasar al ruedo donde se ejercen las peleas.
Then they go into the arena, where the fight will take place. There's a referee and judges to oversee the combat. If the referee considers there is a fault, the judges can overrule him and take a fresh decision to ensure the best bird wins.
Para que gane el mejor y el que se lo haya ganado. Como se lleva una tradición desde muy lejos.
Since this is a very old tradition, the state decided to regulate it and legalize the cockfighting arenas. A company was assigned to control the activity and draw up rules so that everything is clear and legal. We see it as a sport. Otherwise, people go to illegal arenas, place bets, fight between themselves. So it's a way of avoiding all that and of maintaining this tradition, which goes back such a long time.
I generally seek out the best in people, but mankind is sometimes capable of the worst. And even if this is an ancestral tradition, how can we not see in the cruelty of this fight to the death an allegory of the madness within us? The need for an outlet is never an excuse, and man often spends too much energy breaking his binds to the world and far too little reinforcing the notion that he is part of a whole. This little hamlet, made up of barely a dozen houses, is slowly waking up in a very Cuban kind of nonchalance that nothing seems able to upset. This is, however, said to be an exceptional day, because today they are preparing for an ancient festival whose origins lie with the peasant laborers of the great cacao plantations of the end of the 19th century. The first rays of sunlight soon dry away the morning rain, and everyone can get down to work.
Originally, this was a peasant festival which lasted 3 or 4 days, during which they used to dance the nengun. At the end of the festival, they always used to dance the kiriba. That meant it was over and it was time to go home. But sometimes the party would start up again in another village for 2 or 3 days.
The kiriba and the nengun are two ancient dances that were thought to have been forgotten, but which were miraculously rediscovered recently in the little villages in the mountains around Barakoa.
We are the discoverers, but in Barakoa, lots of groups play kiriba nengun, at least those who respect popular tradition. We found this authentic way of playing in the surrounding countryside, not in the city, and more specifically here with these people. What's more, they weren't even aware of what they were playing. We don't see this at all as a museum piece. For us, our role is to keep the kiriba nengun as pure as possible.
These rhythms are of great importance in the island's musical culture, since they are considered the oldest foundation of the Cuban music of today. Their inclusion on the list of intangible cultural heritage would guarantee them protection, because such heritage is extremely fragile, and we are fortunate to still be able to see it.
Sometimes I say to myself, hey, that sounds like the rhythm of the nengun. But actually it isn't. The real nengun is here. Some great musicians have not been able to imitate their way of playing. You know, no one here ever learned how to play music. They just play like that, and it's naturally passed down from father to son, and that's how it's passed on to us. It's pure tradition, pure music. The dance steps of the Nengon have a direct connection with the cacao, particularly with the drying stage, during which they would use their feet to aerate the beans, which stuck together. That's where the basic step of the Nengon comes from. The kiriba, on the other hand, is a bit faster and goes off in several directions, whereas the Nengon remains straight, linear, and has a link with the earth, with the cacao.
No me importa que solo me dejes llorando tu amor. Si eres libre de amar en la vida y yo no te culpo. Si tu alma no supo quererme como te quise yo. No creas que siento empeño a ver que te aleja.
There are places which are hard to leave. And I realize as I go away from Barakoa that I am not just leaving the people, a rhythm, and a light behind, but a certain kind of happiness, the kind that you find in contact with simple folk whose riches take the form of things that cannot be purchased, so much so that we might be tempted to have the indecency to envy a degree of destitution. The world won't wait, and I'm excited to go meet it.